Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth NFL podcast. I'm your host, Anish Gupta.
And I'm your co-host, Srikar Agendan.
So we're going to do this episode as mainly a recap of the wild card games, more focused on the losing teams. We're going to have another episode come out with our divisional picks and the preview of those games. So first of all, Shreek, how was the wild card weekend for you?
Good. If you guys call back to an earlier episode, I was at the game. Awesome atmosphere. Great football game, man. We'll talk about it in a bit, maybe in the preview episode, but good things for the Niners and a good matchup coming up on the horizon on Sunday.
So I had a Browns weren't in it, but I had a great weekend. Especially Saturday night. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I think we found the new one. We found the new guy that I can finally talk about episode after episode, and maybe I won't curse this man, and that is Trevor Lawrence. But Trevor Lawrence, like all of us, is a guy, and guys have a lot of hair. Hair being up here and hair being down there. And our sponsor for today and all our videos, Manscaped, is a very great help with that because, hair can be annoying at times and you want to kind of keep it clean. You want to kind of keep it smooth. And with Manscaped's Lawnmower 4.0, you can absolutely do that with its cutting edge ceramic blade and the wireless charging to make sure that you never run out of battery. The battery life is very long in it of itself. And obviously, again, smooth shave, no cuts, no nicks, nothing like that. It's got other amazing products. They've got some t-shirts, boxers, ball deodorants if you need it. We're super excited to be their partner. We've been for, over a year now. Absolutely love it. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. With this code for you, CHT20, 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Thank you guys over at Manscaped, and let's get right into our recap. So we'll kind of go first off and talk about kind of the Ravens, specifically Lamar Jackson. He didn't travel with the team. He tweeted that, the specificities, okay, I totally mispronounced that word, but the specifics of his injury. I believe it was a grade 2 PCL strain, if I'm not mistaken. I think I worded it wrong, but he gave the full extent of it on his Twitter. And obviously he kind of explained, something that we've seen with, guys like RG3. You don't really want to take that risk unless you have some sort of monetary compensation or monetary security. So with that being said, J.K. Dobbins then comes on after the game, which they very well could have won. We'll kind of talk about the game maybe in a little bit, but just he flat out said it. They win this game with Lamar Jackson. And I think the vast majority of NFL media agrees. In that particular game, with all the things that happened, circumstance-wise, the Ravens played a really good game, were really coached well until, some shaky things. One thing we talk about John Harbaugh is situationally has struggled a lot this season, and that's been key in a lot of their losses. In the playoffs, it, continued. But I think we all agree with Lamar Jackson there. They don't really get into those type of situations. So I'll throw it at you, Shriek. I mean, Ravens fans have got to be a little bit displeased. Lamar Jackson himself has got to be displeased with how the team's attitude is because, a lot of players can kind of understand what he's doing. But at the same time, as a team, as a teammate, you want your guy to be there with you. So where do you think this kind of goes from here? And is Lamar going to be a Raven next year?
So if Jackson signs a long-term extension, obviously no drama there. But if he gets tagged, that's where you kind of buckle up, right? So under the tag scenario, Baltimore has two options. So you can go the route of the exclusive tag and nobody can make an offer. If he gets the non-exclusive tag, another team can sign Jackson to an offer sheet, and that gives Baltimore 1 week to match the exact terms. And if the Ravens match, he signs that contract in Baltimore. If they don't, the Ravens get 2 firsts. Because of Jackson's value, I think there's almost no world where Baltimore uses the non-exclusive. So I think Lamar is about to get the more valuable designation. And that means the Ravens are looking at a cap hit of roughly $45 million, which is the largest number ever on the tag. So at that point, Eric DeCosta has to make a move. what I would do is negotiate with Lamar because he doesn't have an agent, right? So if those negotiations don't, move the conversation forward, then you offer your best deal. And if that's declined, that's when I would start shopping Lamar with the price starting at probably like 3 first-round picks. For the Ravens, I mean, going into next year with Lamar on the tag would be an absolute mess because he might be unwilling to play on it. So a holdout would be coming. If nothing gets done by, I think the date is July 15th. If nothing gets done by then, would he sit out for a few months and just, let go of the season? Also, if Jackson played out the year on the tag, he could easily get another one in 2024, which would be even more expensive. That would be 50 mil plus. I mean, if you're Eric DeCosta, you can't keep doing business that way. So if Baltimore can't get Lamar signed by, I'd say, early March, I think they're going to tag him and they're going to explore all their options there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thrown off a little bit by what you said because he's going to be an unrestricted free agent in March. So, but yeah, you're right. If he gets tagged, then he's still with the team. But trading on the tag, I don't believe that's possible.
It is.
So, unless, I think it depends on what, because if it's exclusive, right? Can they not trade him on the,
if it's
that's the one thing I'm unsure about.
I think if it's non-exclusive, they can trade him. If it's exclusive, they can't. Because if they put the exclusive tag on him, nobody can make an offer for them.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, would you take the 40 mil cap hit just to have him for another year? I don't know.
I'd take the 40 mil and shop him. Because that's
okay.
I don't know if they franchise tag him. I don't know if he's going to want to play.
Yeah. So what team is going to do that? Because he's going to be owed the 40 mil. I don't think you can trade. Because then you would have to owe him the money that year, right? The 40 mil, and then you would have to pay him. So I think the Ravens are going to kind of have to let this, kind of simmer down. I'm really unsure with where this goes. Because it's just so murky right now. Lamar's always kind of been all in with Baltimore, and then these things have kind of started to spew up in the last couple weeks. Because this is now the second year in a row, and it's happened the same way. Lamar Jackson has missed 5+ games, and the Ravens have really suffered because of it. Last year, they went 0-6 to finish the year after starting 8-3. This year, the same thing. They were 8-3. I think they were he got injured a little bit later. I believe they were 9-4 when he got hurt after the loss to Jacksonville. And they lose 4 out of their final 5. So they know how valuable he is to the team. The question is, what are you going to do, with a guy who, just really wants an absurd amount of money, and are you willing to give it, right? Because they're not going to win games with Tyler Huntley. This offense has been catered to Lamar Jackson, and I know all the people about Greg Roman. I personally think it's a little overhated, but I mean, what do you do here? I mean, this team has literally been created to support you. And if you leave, this is not going to be great for a pocket passer. It's not. So that's going to be a little bit troubling. I think Lamar has less to lose here than the Ravens do. So this is where it comes down to desperation. And I think that's why I think Lamar Jackson will stay, and I think a contract will eventually hit. Because if it doesn't, I don't see a tag happening. I just don't think the Ravens want to be under that type of, money, and it's just going to create another thing looming on to next year. Because if this happens again, right, Lamar gets hurt again, then there's so much more that gets into it. Then the contract starts to change. Obviously, Lamar is not going to accept that. So just a lot of murky stuff. I'm just going to focus on the Ravens as a whole here. They played this was the wild card game I watched the least. I watched a little bit of it, particularly towards the end. I mean, dude, you had the game. So many things that just didn't go your way, and you lose to a division rival that you really should have beaten and you really came prepared for. It's hard. It's hard to bounce back off of that. I think the 2 years, these 2 years, they were two teams, 21 Ravens and the 22 Ravens, I thought could really do something in the postseason had they been fully healthy. Again, we're going to live on this question of what if. And that's what it comes down to. Is Lamar Jackson always going to be a what if quarterback? He's going to always be in your top 7, top 5, but he's always going to be, we still haven't really seen him, shine in the postseason. I believe he's 1-2 with losses to the Bills and the Titans. Like, there's just not enough. There's not enough for me to, warrant or say that he's going to win you a Super Bowl. There's not enough for me to say he's, one of the top 3 in the AFC. So much that, is just, there's so many questions. And I think that's a big problem.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on the extension. I think they do happen to get it done, but if they give him his best offer and he declines, I mean, I'm not sure how much choice you really have. So it's very sticky. It's a very sticky situation for Eric DaCosta. Lamar was never really in my top 10. I mean, he was obviously, but recently, no, I haven't done it. And when he was healthy, I will agree. I mean, that Ravens team, I think, would have won the division. And they do win this playoff game. But it's tough because even if you do trade him, who are the suitors going to be? Because you need a scheme that fits directly to his talents. And you also got to worry about durability, as you said. So I don't know. It's very confusing. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out heading into March. But the Ravens are in a really weird spot.
Yeah, durability was never a question his first 3 years. So It's only just now coming out. And, we've always said this about mobile quarterbacks. It's the same kind of thing, right? You put yourself in so many situations where one wrong thing and boom, right? The season can go down. It's just always been a murky situation for any, mobile quarterback. And, I'm confused for the Ravens. Like, I really don't know. I will say this, though. I will defend him here. I think every time he's been on the field, I don't think I can name 10 quarterbacks better than him. So I will say that. But you're right. The durability thing is a question. I throw it out with him. I throw it out with Kyler. So, it's a real thing. But I think we're both in agreement. I think an extension does eventually get done. But if not, I would not put him on the franchise tag. And I think, do you agree with me on that, or would you?
No, I if he declines the best offer, then I'd tag him and just look to explore.
Yeah, so I think a little bit disagreement there, but I think an extension does get done.
Yeah.
Let's move on to talk about two teams that lost in really heartbreaking ways. Let's go Miami first. This is again a team that we did not expect to do as well as they did, but they did. So many things where it's like, you should have won this game. I'm a big Mike McDaniel supporter. I will continue to be, because to be honest, he outcoached Sean McDermott for most of that game. It was one thing that kept him consistently from winning the game, and we're going to say it both. It was getting set on time. I mean, like, I get it. Okay, I understand. And, after kind of seeing a little bit of, being on field for some of these games and being behind the scenes, like, I understand how play calls work and how, how the game plans are studied and how it does take some time to get the right one. But this consistently, you cannot do that. Like, I mean, the 4th and a foot, you cannot, you have to have, like, every play sheet has specific situations and they have specific amount of plays for it. You have to trust it. Like, you cannot overthink it. And I think that was the problem. I think there was just a lot of overthinking and a lot of, trying to get the silent count right. And that's what led to what? I think they had only 4 penalties all day, and it was all false starts, right? That's 1. And then 2, just the getting set. They had to use all 3 timeouts because they weren't set. So that's 7 different times at the line of scrimmage where things were faltered before the play even happened. That is really bad. I think that's probably the biggest reason. I'll maybe throw it on to you. You can maybe talk about Skyler a little bit, but that was it for me.
Yeah, I'll actually keep it short. So McDaniel said there was communication that they'd gotten a first down, so he didn't have a 4th down call set at that moment, which is why. But I mean, Miami, like they were undone by communication issues the whole game, and it wasn't only from McDaniel; it was from Thompson too. And on the biggest play of the game, it finally kind of caught up to them. But where do they go from here? As I said before, I think Tua's coming back. Chris Greer said Tua's coming back, so we can expect that. Jack asked this in the chat, and he said, "Do you think Mike McDaniel is the guy?" And the way that I thought about that was, I don't know, but I think if I'm a Dolphins fan, I'm happy with this year. I'm happy with what he was able to do. There is still potential for this team, and if injuries hadn't undone them, they would have been a lot scarier, than they were going into Wild Card Weekend in Buffalo. And they still played him tough. They played him tough the last two times they played the Bills. So if I'm a Bills fan, I'm still a little worried about the Dolphins heading into the future. I'm not going to dive too deep into that, but I don't think they have a bleak future or anything like that. I still think the Dolphins have a good future ahead of them. I still think McDaniel has done good enough to warrant, a second year. He's not on the hot seat or anything like. So I think if I'm a Dolphins fan, I'm happy with how this year went, even though it ended in a wild card loss to your division rival. You still were able to play him tough with a 7th-round rookie. I still think that's impressive.
Yeah, again, like I said, he outcoached Sean McDermott except for that. Like literally, if it was not for the plays before the line of scrimmage, I think he did a hell of a job. One thing I'll also say, you mentioned it too, but all three of the games between those two teams were decided by 3 points or less, right? So they lost both times by 3 points. Both times. Like this is like the Dolphins played him well. And one thing I want to say too is the defense looked really good. I know they gave up 34, but there were so many like bad situations that the offense kind of put him in that allowed for certain touchdowns that were to occur. But I mean, they allowed 19 points in week 3, right? And I know they gave up 32, but it was their first game under 55 degrees, right? And then the second time, and then the third time, a lot of it, they got 2 really key turnovers, right? And they got, I believe, 18 points off turnovers. They might have gotten another touchdown off it, but I think it was 18. That's winning football. And I think that's something you can definitely build on. And I think Mike McDaniel is a really good coach. I still will stand by him. And I think this is something you can easily build on. Tyreek Hill had his best season of his career. I personally think game for game, he was the best receiver in the league this year. So there's a lot to build on with this team. And I think the defense, that was a big confidence boost. I know you're going to look at the yards and the score and think, okay, 34 points. I think it was like 300, 400 yards of offense, but they played a lot better than people think. So
also, the drops were ridiculous in that game. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
The drops are ridiculous. If they hold on to the ball, I think they win the game. Honestly.
Yeah, there's so many things that you can look back on that for Miami and think, okay, if this happened. But the NFL is not a what if league. But we can obviously speculate. And then Skyler went I think 37% completion percentage or something like that.
It would have been better had it not been for the drops.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I think there were a lot of factors that went into it, and for a 7th-round rookie to kind of come in and do that. He had a couple good throws, especially the 3rd down one to Waddle. I think that was a really good one. So I think, Miami's fine. Let's talk about the Chargers really quick. I'm really going to save it. I want to save as much as I can for our preview episode because I'm going to unleash on that one. But we talked about it a little bit. I kind of sent a couple paragraphs on what I thought about Justin Herbert. So I'll let you go first and then I'll kind of recap what I thought.
I think the Chargers suffered the second worst loss I've ever seen on Saturday night. Nothing's going to top the Falcons blowing a 28-3 lead, right? That's the Super Bowl, and it all fell apart in the second half. But the Chargers losing a 27-0 lead to Jacksonville, despite being +5 in the turnover battle against a team with less talent and the same experience level, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous to me. I think it's the second worst loss I've ever seen. And no, it's not the biggest comeback in postseason history by numbers. Obviously, we look at the Bills-Oilers game, Chiefs-Colts in the wild card in 2013, but Buffalo was in the midst of reaching 4 straight Super Bowls. I mean, that was an all-time team. Indianapolis was better than Kansas City. The Chiefs didn't have a superstar at quarterback. For the Chargers, I couldn't live this down. It's just they fired Joe Lombardi. Sure, they needed to do that. I mean, if you look at the pass charts, it's disgusting how bad they just limited Herbert. But Oh my God, this is on Staley more than anything. It's just 31 points in 31 minutes is ridiculous. And obviously, we can trace back to the Week 18 game. If the Chargers had Mike Williams in this game, maybe we're singing a different story because you needed a guy outside of Keenan Allen to step up, and they didn't have him. So you can trace it back to that too. I think Herbert does deserve some blame. 3 points in the second half is just unacceptable, and it kind of obviously it's Staley's fault, but it's Herbert's fault too. I mean, he's the leader of this offense. So it's the Chargers situation. I am not a believer in them next year, honestly. Obviously, you're still going to have a top heavy group, but very injury prone. So there's that. Talented, but very, very uncertain. I don't think I'm going to be a believer in this team next season.
Yeah, so they were my dark horse to go win the Super Bowl this year, all the way back to April. And first, let me say this about Staley. You're right. A lot of it is on him, but why do we think Joe Lombardi got fired, right? This is a collective decision. I think Lombardi was the play caller. He had a lot to do with it. And I believe they only called 7 run plays or something like that.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
So that I think I put on Lombardi. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's the first thing. The second thing is the Mike Williams thing. Again, I think the only reason I'll put that on Staley is because he has the final say in a lot of personnel decisions. So I will give him blame for that. I don't know where they go from here as a team. I said this, I think, on our chat too, right? Like players wise, you hear what the media says about you. It's everywhere. I mean, it's so hard to escape, right? So you hear what people are saying about Staley, and you as a team lose 27-0. You are going to look at your head coach differently. You are going to do that. Okay. The things that people said prior, right? The 4th down stuff, all that stuff. It didn't matter because they were winning games, or at least they had something to build upon. But this is one of the biggest losses ever, right? And you as a team, you're all going to be in disbelief. I mean, Derwin was talking about it too, right? He'd never seen anything like that in his 21 years of playing or whatever. But like teammates talk, players talk, and they know what people are saying, and they're going to look at their head coach differently. I don't know if Staley can really recover from this with the Chargers. And yeah, defensively, there were a lot of wishy-washy things. They got away with, as much as, Joey Bosa can complain about the false start or not, which I actually don't think it was a false start. I think in real time it was pretty aligned. The Chargers got away with some calls too. I mean, I watched the game through and through, and there was a Gerald Everett catch that did not happen. That gave him 20 yards and an eventual field goal. There was a blatant PI on Evan Ingram that was not called. I know they scored later, but just a lot of things that were wish-washy. You can't really blame that, as the result of the game. Like, you sold. All right, and now I'm going to get into Justin Herbert. I am not hearing Herbert greater than Burrow things anymore. I don't know where is that. I think that narrative has died. And I've just got a wicked smile on my face because, I've been having to fight that for quite some time. I will say this about Justin Herbert. I've never hated on him. I have never said that he's not good, but I've always said that he's a step below what I think people call him to be. There were consistent times in that Jacksonville game where he missed on throws from 7 to 15 yards. And one thing you can never doubt is his arm talent, his mobility, I don't know, his drop back, right? Like, there's things you cannot really doubt, his velocity, but you can doubt his accuracy. That is one thing I've continued to doubt, and I've seen time and time again where he's missed key throws that have kept other teams in the game or have cost his team. And I will say this, I think he's still a step down. Like, he's a pretty clear step down from my 3, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen. And I was waiting to say this for the preview, but I probably, I'll end up saying it again anyway. I've got Trevor Lawrence above him, and I think he's a step down from that. There's things that I still need to see from him. There are consistent times where he has missed on throws that Joe Lombardi has schemed open. There was a specific drag route a shallow crosser that I believe it was either Keenan running it or D'Angelo Carter, and he flat out missed it. And there are a lot of times where I'm like, Justin Herbert's got to hit that. You're Justin Herbert. You've got to hit that throw. So that's what I'll say. I think the Chargers have a little more questions than people are thinking. How about we go one more round? Do you think that this team makes it back to the playoffs next year?
You know what? I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no, and it depends on
I'm
this
with you.
offseason, but I think there's only gonna be one playoff team in the AFC West next year, and it's gonna be the Chiefs.
Wow, I'm with you. Yeah, I don't think they do. It's a combination of other teams probably getting better, and this team, again, where do you go from here, right? How do you look at Staley the same way? I can't. I mean, if I'm a Chargers fan, this is constantly going
I
to be
can't live
playing
it
in my
down.
head.
No way.
Right? Okay, the first half they looked so impressive. Like they looked so good, right? And sure it was a combination of maybe just miscues by Jacksonville, but like they were hitting on all cylinders. And I know a lot of their drives started from opponent territory, this and that. They looked really good, and I think if you had ridden that momentum going into a next week's game, for sure you could have beaten your divisional round opponent, for sure. I mean, this is momentum we're talking about that's really big. And yeah, so I think Miami were a little bit more stable on, and the Chargers not as much. Let's kind of move on. First of all, I just want to say Tom Brady costed me about $350 on a parlay that I put. Shriek knows what I'm talking about. I had a 6-game parlay on every game. Shriek and I had the same picks. We were both 5 for 5, and I'd picked Tom Brady to upset because it was by the sporting odds an upset over Dallas. And he looked awful. There were, the red zone interception was something so stupid. I was literally about to throw something in my monitor. And it was a terrible loss. I think we can flat out say this was Tom Brady's worst playoff performance in his illustrious career. I'll let you start on this one. Tom Brady seemed very different in his presser. Where do you think he goes from here? Byron Leftwich is gone. The Bucs have an aging roster on both sides of the ball. Where do you go from here?
Yeah, I said this in the chat, but I don't think I've ever seen a Brady-led team look that horrendous, ever. So definitely out of the norm for a guy like Tom Brady. And you know what? I should have picked the Cowboys. I'll come out and say I put too much stock in Brady being Brady, and it is what it is. However, if you ask me where he should go from here, it becomes very, very tough because I have a feeling of what he will do and what he should do. And I think what he should do is retire. But I think what he will do is he's going to keep playing, and it's not going to be for the Bucs. I think he'll be playing for a different team. Because I mean, I think he can still play. Like he can still play. I think his heart is still in the game. And I hate speculating on this because I always feel kind of uncomfortable. Like, oh, is he going to retire? Is he not? Like, because I can't speak for a guy like that. But if I'm going off my judgment, I think he's going to be looking for a different team. And I don't think he'll retire.
All right, I'm going to say a couple things. I'm with you on the Cowboys thing. This screamed 2019. Remember, he had a kind of a down year, right? He still had the passing yards. He still had the touchdowns. And people were like, oh, could this be his final year in New England, right? He has the wild card loss, ends on a really bad note against Tennessee, and then this time against Dallas. And he leaves, right? So this is what's screaming to me. I'm with you. I think he stays. You can't, he's still playing decent football. Like, you can't watch his game against the Panthers and think the Tom Brady of old is still not in, or is gone, right? So I think, yeah, he probably finds a team that's a little bit more suited to his caliber. And I think there are teams out there that have that. I can't really give you one in particular right now. People are saying LV. I don't really see it as much as people do. But time will tell in the next couple months what we'll get for Tom Brady. But I'm with you. I don't think he retires. Going back to the game, I mean, you're right. Like, you're saying this is the most, horrendous looking Brady-led team you've seen. But I think Bucs fans can agree with me on this. This has been happening all year. Maybe in the playoffs this is the first time, but in the regular season, this has been happening a lot. I mean, 21-3 against the Panthers Really? I mean, like, this is a team that you should have beaten. The Steelers game, he was out at Kraft's wedding till Saturday and missed walkthroughs, right? Which is
Hmm.
really important because walkthroughs is the final stuff, your final game plan. He misses walkthroughs, and yeah, of course you're going to lose to the Steelers were, I think, like 1-4 at the time, but you're going to lose to the Steelers if you don't have your walkthroughs. They looked really disappointing then. They only scored over 30 points twice in a league that is very pass heavy, right? And a team who passes the most can only amass 30 points once. This was kind of writing on the wall, and I'm gonna also bring my faults. I should have seen this. I mean, like, a lot of people should have. This was Dallas's game to win, and yeah, this has been a really disappointing season. And one thing that Colin Cowherd mentioned, and I think I agree with him on, there was just something different about Tom this offseason. You'd never questioned his passion or where he was at with football up until this year, right? First the retiring, then unretiring, then the 11 days of absence, then the divorce, right? Like, this is so uncharacteristic from a guy that we never really talk about besides football. So this year was just completely off. And is it something that he can't fix? I don't know, but I'm with you. I think you can't retire off this season. This is just like, there was a little hope, and I'm trying to take out my bias for a guy that, has represented the sport I love for so long. But yeah, I think the time is ticking now. I think we're finally seeing time kind of catch up with Tom. I don't think it's fully there yet, but I think you're with me, right? Like, the clock is there. Like, there's a
Yeah,
clock
it's
in our
there.
minds, right? And the hourglass or something, right? Like, it's kind of coming up. Do you have a team that maybe you want to throw out there that Tom should go to? I know you're a Niner fan, so if you want
I've
to throw.
seen, yeah, so I've seen a few teams that, I mean, according to reports, are pursuing him, and I think I remember three off the top of my head outside the Bucks. It's the Raiders, the Niners, and the Titans. So of those three teams, Tennessee has a new general manager now, Rand Carthon. Congrats to him. Could they go for a big swing there immediately and, signal the end of the Tannehill era? Maybe. That's possible. You talked about the Raiders. I agree. I feel like it's kind of smoke right now, but obviously a connection with McDaniels and Ziegler there. So maybe there. The Niners, obviously, coming back home, viable fit there. There's a lot of options, but I don't think we can really, come up with an actual landing spot until later, like until
Yeah,
after the season ends. So
I'm with you. I've also seen Jets rumors. I don't know.
nah.
I don't think that happens.
Um,
Yeah, so I think to kind of answer our question, which was what was the future of Tom, one thing for sure we're agreeing on is there is a football future. The only question is, I think we're both in agreement that he does not stay with Tampa.
mhm.
Tampa is giving me too many red flags right now. And I think the biggest mistake that they made, and I know it was a culmination of a bunch of things, was Bruce Arians not staying. I mean, like, since he left, right? I mean, last year he was 13-4, right? They were doing great. Um, and ever since he left, it's just been really shaky. I think Todd Bowles has had to carry a little bigger of a load that he could handle. Pause. And I think the defense kind of struggled from that, and also the offense did. So the Bucks were a lot worse of a team than I think we were giving them credit for, and I think that's just because we really didn't pay as much attention as we should have.
Mhm.
So I think, yeah, that's going to kind of recap of the wild card games. Let us know in the comments if you agree with anything or anything in particular that we've maybe missed out on. We'll talk about the rest of the teams in the preview episode, which I don't know how we're going to do it, but they'll be
It'll come
in
out
line
after
with,
this one. Yeah.
yeah, it'll be in line with each other though. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, a little shorter of an episode, but we hope you guys enjoy it. We've been the Cold Hard Truth NFL podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.